Now, the next thing we're going to talk about is we're going to talk about bar plots. So we're going to create a bar plot. Now, to create a bar plot, we have a command called bar plot, which is nice. And not bear plot, bar plot. And I created bar plot. And now what it wants is the height. And by the height, what it means is once again, the numeric data. So I'm going to do data, and it's going to be our numbers, right? The first thing that it wants is the numeric data. I'm just going to space out my commenting a little bit nicer so it's easier to see that this is commenting. Then what we can add, if we just ran this as is, we can see that it's just got these bars, but it doesn't tell us anything about the bars. It just gives us the 3 individual bars. So with that, we'd like to label what these bars represent. We'd like to give them names. So the x-axis labels we actually use the command names. And this is going to be our data colors. So it's going to be the color associated with each numeric value. So this is our x labels. And now if we run it, you can see that we've added these labels. Now that we have our labels, we can do a couple things. We can give it a title, which once again is main, and this is going to be bar chart for the number of marbles in the bag. And the name, and now if we run it again, we have an issue. You'll notice here that it says main unexpected symbol. And if we look here, notice how we have commas everywhere. Here, here, here before. But then I didn't add a comma here before the main. And it might be tempting to add a comma here, but if we do and we run it, it gives us the same error again, because it's after this $sign. We have to put the comma here. And now you can see it runs just fine. The last thing that I'm going to add to the bar chart is I'm going to give it some color. The colors that I'm going to use are going to be the colors that are from our data set. And you'll see again, it says main issue because I didn't put the comma. And now it's the colors. So when you're doing this, be careful to make sure you got the colors. So now, once again, I'm going to save the image and I'm going to go to the location where everything else is stored. And I'm going to save it here. I'm going to relabel it bar chart. Now we've created the bar chart. The last thing we need to create is the Pareto chart, or to create to create the Pareto chart, what you might be tempted to do is in this plot environment, try to order the data. What's actually going to be easier is if we order the data before we go into the chart environment. And to do that, we're going to use a special function called order. And if we type out our data and we have square brackets, what we can do is we can call the order function. And what the order function is going to do and then with a comma. And what it's going to do is it's going to order our data frame using one of our entries. And the first entry that we give it will be the first thing it uses to order our data frame. So if I give it data and I tell it number, then it's going to order it based on the number. If I read that, it's now reordered the data, green, then red, then blue. And the issue with this is it goes from lowest to highest. So what we can do with order is we can tell it, we have the order, we can tell it decreasing equals true. And now it's going to order the data from largest to smallest. Okay. And the syntax here is super important. We have to remember this comma after this ordering and before the end of the square brackets. Now, if we look here, we can see that our data still hasn't changed. And why might this be? Because all we've done is we've called this. So it sorted it and printed it, but it doesn't put it anywhere. Remember, if we want to restore the data, we need to restore the data. So we need to take data, rechange the order, and put it back into where we're storing the data. Because now if I run it by pressing Control Enter, and we look at our data order has now changed. Okay? Which is really cool. Well, once we've changed the data, we can just take the bar chart that we had before, and we can run it. And we're running it with the new data. Now, one thing to be cautious of is if I go back up to this bar plot, a lot of people are like, oh, I'm just going to run this bar plot to get the data I had before. But if we do that, our data, we have changed. We have changed what our data is. So by creating that bar plot, we can't recreate the data we had originally. We'd have to reread in that original data. So if I go to this read file and run it, now I can recreate the bar plot with the original data. So what some people will like to do is they like to create an ordered data where they create another data frame that reorders the data based on size. And then what they're going to do is they're going to use the ordered data to create my bar chart. So now I have my Pareto diagram, which I can once again save as and save it in the same place that everything else was. And change the name to Pareto. So now what I want to do is I want to save this script, which I can either click this save icon here. I can press Control S or some others to save the script. And the last thing I want to do is I want to finish my commenting. So here, this is going to be the colors of the bars. And this is going to be colors. It's going to be title of the bar chart. This is title of the pie graph. And this here is the colors of the bars in the Pareto chart. Title. And I want to change this to Pareto chart. It's important to have titles. that make the charts make sense. So these titles aren't really as accurate as they should be. With a particular color in the bed. This should help you with the first homework, question 6, as you are asked to do something extremely similar for a different set of data.